Microphones are basically recording, not amplifying microphones. So feel free to come forward to the front of the room when the case in which you are interested is called. Mic's on, folks. We ready? In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board town hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the town hall at 7 p.m. on Monday, June 24, 2019.
Here.
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 Here. All right, before we begin, just I want to give a shout out to Mary McNett and to Joy Siegel, who with myself constitute a subcommittee which reviews the proposed memorializing resolutions prepared by our attorney who's seated to my right, Gail Fraser, and we worked together with Gail to produce the best memorializing resolutions we can do. Okay, we're going to open the meeting by having one set of minutes, May 20th, 2019. Any corrections you want to put on the record, Eileen? Pardon me?
This is the final version.
Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 20, 2019?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? The minutes of May 20th, 2019 are accepted by this board. Next, we have two memorializations. The first is calendar 3691-19, Frank Landy at 1 Nottingham Road, Millburn Township. Any additions or corrections to that memorializing resolution? Who's eligible to vote on that?
Mary McNett, Craig Putner, Joyce Siegel, Jessica Glad, Joseph Steinberg, Kevin Winslow.
Will one of the four of you like to make a motion to approve the memorializing resolution for calendar 3691-19?
Move approval of calendar 3961-19.
Do we have a second?
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Craig Putner.
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Kevin Winslow,
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. The second memorialization is calendar 3692-19, Performers Theater at 131 Millburn Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I have two additional corrections that I received yesterday from Mr. Wenzel. So on page 7, 6 lines from the top, changing the word children to students. And on page 8, if I could get to it, 2/3 of the way down, the line beginning their backyard. In that next sentence, removing the word have, so it would read, Mr. Keller testified that the proposed use would not result in any detriment to the neighborhood. I've made those changes and I forwarded that corrected resolution to Eileen Davitt.
Did you get my corrections?
That was a long time ago.
That, those were incorporated?
Mhm.
Okay. Who's eligible on this one?
Same.
Same people? Well, one of the persons named likes to make a motion to adopt the memorializing resolution in calendar 3692-19, Performance Theater.
I'll make a motion to approve calendar 3692-19.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Joyce Siegel.
Yes.
Kevin Wenzel,
Yes.
Kristen Black.
Yes.
Josie Stark.
Yes. All right, thank you. We're going to now proceed to our applications. The first application is Robert Redden and Xiaojin Li at 4 Rosedale Avenue.
Good evening, everyone.
By the way, all of you who are presenting here tonight, you can assume that the members of the zoning board have viewed your property. Proceed. Oh, we don't have a,
I'll swear you in. If you'll each raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your names and your address for the record.
Robert S. Redden. and
Xiaoshan Chen.
4 Rosedale Avenue, Millburn,
Thank
New
you.
Jersey.
proceed.
Okay. We did a renovation on our house, and when we bought it last year, and we added in a fence along the back of our property line, which actually faces forward to Rosedale Avenue. It's at the very back. It's 100 feet back from the road. We were informed after we put it in that, number one, we needed a permit, which we weren't aware that we did. There was actually an old fence there that was kind of dilapidated that we took out, made out of metal. And then we were also told that that's actually was a violation of the zoning. So we realized we had to get see if we can get a variance of the zoning for that fence.
Because the zoning officer took the position that it was a front-facing fence,
Correct.
front yard fence.
Right. It's like a double-sized lot, and the house sits off to one side. I think originally it was like a 2 Rosedale, 4 Rosedale, but we can't build on it obviously because of the square footage. You can't build out on that other part of the property. So it's sort of that whole part of the corner lot on Milton and Rosedale is somewhat exposed, and you can see all the way back there. We have additional pictures if it helps at all.
No, as I said, you can assume that the board members have seen it.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
You have an answer to question number 15, where you say the fence blocks the view of the garage of one neighbor,
Correct.
neighbors, I can't read the rest of it.
And just
One,
the second.
Yeah, it's
What?
like a shed and a garage back in there.
but isn't it true that your garage actually blocks the view of the neighbor's shed, not the fence?
Well, there's a garage there, which it definitely blocks the view of that, and yes, there's trash cans and all that in there. So if we have the fence out, then you see all the trash cans stacked up. The other side is, part of it is, you're right, part of that shed on the other neighbor's house, which is Cypress, is blocked by our garage too, and part of it overlaps to where the fence is.
Are there any questions of the witnesses by board members?
I have a question. What is the composition of the fence?
It's just a wooden picket fence,
Was it picket
yes.
painted?
It's not painted, it's natural. And we spoke to all the neighbors about it before we put it in, just to make sure everybody was okay with it. Particularly the ones that have the garage there on Milton, that kind of, he liked the way that that kind of protected that area there where he could put some tools in there and his trash cans and kept them from blowing away and things like that. So he was very happy about that.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Who
Anyway.
installed the fence?
Sorry?
Who installed it?
Oh, we had a contractor?
Yeah.
Who's the contractor?
It's what's his name?
Lou, Mr. Lou.
Lou.
Mr. Lou.
Yeah.
And he didn't make you aware of the need for permits?
He was
He
unaware of it.
didn't know.
He didn't know.
We didn't know too. Yeah. So otherwise we will apply first. And also the fence was put the wrong direction, the smooth part to our direction. I told Elaine, if we approve by Warren, and then we can take off and re-put on, make a right, like facing,
The finished side facing.
yeah, finish
by the way.
side facing to neighbor.
Do you know, does this contractor do a lot of work in the Millburn Shoreline?
I don't think he does. I think that was it.
No.
I think he normally is.
Like just
More
some friends introduced me from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? I have one more question before I ask the audience.
What's the height of the fence? The height of the fence?
6 feet.
Okay.
Are you aware that 5 of the, you mentioned here that a portion of the fence is blocking, the view of the fence is blocked by trees that you have planted?
Mhm.
Are you aware that 5 of those trees are dying?
They just got replaced.
When?
Yeah.
Well, we've actually,
I have a picture of
Right.
replaced the,
we replaced 7,
yeah.
but the
That's-
7 we replaced were just in the last month. And the others, looks like our gardener that comes and helps us with that thinks that the others that are browned out are gonna make it. So we're gonna try to pull them through. If not, then we'll have to replace those too. But we're trying to create sort of a natural barrier with using the green giants to kind of also block the view a little bit.
Why do you want the fence?
It was, he had all his trash cans, and there's just like, it's sort of an unkept area with just sticks and a little bit of about 6 feet wide of various, debris and sticker bushes and things like that on the other side of the property. It was just really unkept, and there was a fence in there that was metal of some sort that was broken down and just really unsightly. So we talked to the neighbor about it and see what he thought. He thought it was a good idea, and so we went ahead that way. But it blocks that kind of unsightliness there, and then it gives him the ability to have his trash cans and everything back in there without any problems having it blowing around.
I have a question. I'm just curious, how did you then find out that you didn't need a variance?
Then we
How did you know then, you said you didn't know and your contractor didn't know, so how did you know that you did?
Oh, we got a violation or something, came in the
Oh,
mail.
so
Yep,
somebody saw it, okay.
sure. Yep, that's how we found out.
Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? I hear none and I see none. I have one more question. It's really not a question, it's really a comment. I would vote, I'd be inclined to vote in favor of the application, provided that there is a condition attached that that any trees that are found to be dying be replaced.
Hmm?
Yes.
Not a problem for you, is it?
Not at
No.
all,
Okay.
no. We just want to give him a fighting chance right now.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, the fence is also installed backwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they did say that if, depending on what the outcome tonight was, they said they would.
Reverse it,
So
Yeah.
we
yes.
just hope that that could be also.
Yes,
Condition.
Yeah.
right.
It's not the good side
It's not,
facing the
it's not,
neighbor.
it's not the finished side.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be
Yeah.
reversed.
Once we
I didn't actually go around and look at the other side.
definitely we are change immediately after.
All right, so there'd be 2 conditions that I hear. One is that any trees planted along, I guess that's along Rosedale Avenue,
It's both Milton and Rosedale, both.
that found to be dying would be replaced,
Yes.
and the fence would be reversed, so the finished side would face your house?
No, face the neighbors.
Face the neighbor's
Face the
house.
neighbor.
Yes,
Sorry,
correct.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
yes.
So do you need to take any permissions from the township of Maplewood?
We did. We had to at least notify them. There were about 6 houses that we had to notify.
There's no violation there?
No,
Yeah, there's no violation, they just haven't notified.
they like it too, actually.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make,
Sorry, that's for you.
I'll make a motion to approve with the
With those two
conditions, with the
conditions.
2 conditions that were discussed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Burnett? Yes. Craig Plattner?
Yes.
Jody Sherman?
Yes.
Jim Steele?
Yes.
Steve Tover?
No,
Jessica Black?
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg?
Yes. Thank you. All right, the next case we're going to hear is Christopher and Allison Raybeau. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, at 30 Southern Slope Drive. Is that case ready?
I'd like to say something. I know the next applicant, but.
This applicant.
This applicant coming, yes, but I feel that, not very well, they live on my street, that it can still be fair and objective.
And you're not within 200 feet?
No, I'm not listening.
You want to swear the witnesses?
Yes, if you'll all raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your names and your address.
Christophe Rebaud.
Allison Raybo, 30 Southern Slope Drive, Millburn.
Gregory Paladini, the architect. 132 Bridge Street, Roselle Park, New Jersey.
Want to spell your last name, please?
Kolodeny. Paladini.
All right, who's going to speak first?
No, I'll just start. I'll just present.
Well, you're the
I
architect?
know this.
All right, come forward and give us the benefit of your education, your background, your experience.
I was graduated in NJIT in 1978, and I got my license in 1986. I worked for architects between the two, and I started my practice at home, about 1987, and been working there ever since.
Your license in good
License in
standing?
New Jersey. And you, pardon?
Is it in good standing today?
Yes. I just
Have you ever appeared before zoning or planning boards?
Yes. I've been here in maybe early 2000, maybe for one.
Have you appeared before other boards as well?
Yeah, I believe so. I think we approved it. It was like an addition to a house, and
Okay.
I don't remember exact details anymore.
Before you begin, Eileen, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I note some discrepancies between your attachment B and the zoning table on the applicant's plans. And according to the zoning table on the applicant's plans, on, I don't think it has a sheet number, but it's the first sheet, the zoning chart. I see a number of discrepancies. So they indicate the proposed side yard, the side yard existing is 7.3 feet and proposed is 8.5. I believe your report indicates existing and proposed is 7.2. On combined side yard setback, they indicate the existing is 32.8%. It looks like their proposed is 52%.
Yeah, only of the addition. Sorry.
Wait, and then the third item is floor area ratio. I think the required 36% of the lot area is not 22,000 2,251 square feet maximum, it's 2185.55. And their calculation is, they've got a floor area ratio of 2,249 square feet. When I do the math, it looks like that's conforming, 35.97.
They did not include their detached garage
Okay,
in their zoning chart.
okay.
So, when you look at the bottom, that's the first floor, and the second floor. First floor, then 1,121.4, second floor, 984. The
So-
attic is not included.
So we have to, the attic is not included?
The attic of the what?
The attic is not included because it's less than 50% of the second floor. It's not included in the floor.
Right, yeah, the new attic, the new, yeah, the new,
But the
Of-
garage is
of which
231
attic we
square
talking
feet.
about?
That has to be added?
which attic?
Garage, 231 square feet. I believe that's fairly.
So, Mr. Coladenny, when you testify, would you please clarify what we're talking about here? What's the square footage on the floor area ratio?
Well, it's only the principal house itself, it doesn't not
No, the
include the
floor
garage.
area ratio,
Right,
the garage is included in the calculation.
no, it's not,
It's-
not,
It is.
not
Yes,
in
it
mine.
is.
Well, it is in yours, but I haven't done it that way 3 years ago. I've done it.
Right.
Okay.
But my point to you is,
And why is
in
that?
your testimony, you have, your plans are incorrect. We go by the zoning officer. You need a floor area ratio for 37.3%. So I'd like your testimony to correct the square footage, including the garage.
Well, I can just tell you right now. I wrote it down in pencil here.
Okay,
For adding the area of the garage, I came up with, the area of the garage is 231 square feet. And then that comes to, then you add that to my new area coverage of 2248. And it comes to 2480 divided by the lot area, or it comes like 39.66%. Now, my,
Okay, you're saying 39.66. Eileen, you have 37.3.
yeah, I didn't know, I thought, now, and that's from the numbers taken off the plan itself. I have a,
I think your floor area ratio is including the attic.
no,
It looks
Just-
like it's
just
including the attic.
attic of what? No, not the attic of the garage.
I've included
I
the
did the
first
whole-
floor, which she shows as 1,121.46. The second floor is 984.44 plus the garage of 231, and so I come up with 37.3.
Okay. So your testimony is that the attic is not included. According to the township zoning ordinance, this attic is not included for floor area ratio purposes. Do you understand that?
The attic of what, the garage?
No, the
Of
attic
of
in the house.
Right, yeah, I did not include that because that's not a usable attic
Well,
anyway.
you did include it.
No, I did not,
Well, I'm counting it. You say
no.
1121.46, 984.44, and 143. That's how you get to
The
two.
attic is the existing attic of the main house.
It doesn't have.
Not
But
the-
it doesn't get included, is the
It is
point
not
we're making.
included.
Well, it's a habitable attic.
And it's less than 50% of the second.
Yeah, I divided to the area that's 6.6 foot 6
But it-
inches in the
It's
middle
not
of
just
the
based on
attic.
height,
of
it's
the
also
height.
based on
Yeah, the
area.
height of the habitable area of the attic.
But it's not just
Six.
based on height.
50% of the second floor. So you're
I didn't figure that out, yeah. I
Well,
just,
that's,
I just took a number at the time I did it. I don't remember how I did that.
my point is that when you calculate.
It's like
floor-
about the 6 foot area of the middle of the attic.
Only
Just
one
to
of us can
remember.
talk at a time.
I'm sorry. I'm always like this.
My point is that floor area ratio under the township ordinance is what we go by.
Right.
That floor area ratio calculation includes the detached garage, but it does not include any portion of the attic that is not 50% or more of the floor below it. So when you talk about that's the existing
Well-
attic versus the attic over the addition, I don't want you to break it out that way. I
Okay.
need you to tell me the attic, both the existing and the proposed, is it 50% or more of the second floor, existing and proposed? Am I right, Eileen?
Right, the way it's broken down is if your attic,
If it's habitable, right?
the habitable portion,
It's
6
not.
foot 6 inches or more,
Yes.
is greater than 50% of your second floor, then we include it. If it's less than 50%, we do not.
Okay.
It
Well-
appeared to me that it was
well,
greater than
I-
50%.
It's not habitable attic, first of all, because there's no way of getting into it. This is
Well,
from the other attic.
I think talking about the existing attic, right? Not
No.
talking about the addition.
No.
part.
I'm talking about the entire.
We're talking about the entire dwelling,
Access
existing and
it.
Yeah,
proposed.
existing and proposed.
And whether or not you can access it, really has no.
Right, no bearing on it.
definition. Even if you can access it,
No.
it's up to-
Yeah,
it's whether-
I don't know. I don't understand this.
Can you do the calculation
See-
for us now?
I'll try, but my thing is that I filed the definition of the floor area ratio in your definitions in the zoning booklet, which does not, that's what I was just saying, it does not include garages, it just talks about
All right,
spaces
please,
above
don't mention
garages,
the garage anymore. Can you
So-
answer the?
So
attorney?
my problem is, this is not, doesn't make sense to me, all this stuff. All right.
So what you will need to know is get the addition, the total attic
Of the
area
addition,
of the existing plus addition, and is that covering 50% of the existing second floor? Is that
Yes.
I don't,
And your garage is included in floor area ratio.
and even though it's a garage is as an accessory building way in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is, I want to
It's in
understand
the-
this. is
It's
what
in
my
the
problem is.
ordinance.
You might be looking at an old ordinance,
Well,
because
no,
it
I
used
looked
to
at
not be
right one
included.
online today.
so?
Online?
Yes, today. I got the copy right here of the definitions of that.
Well, the zoning officer is sitting right here,
And I never
is
got
our board
anything from her.
secretary.
I never got nothing from her
And
about it.
she and her testimony, and according to how we have applied the zoning ordinance for, I don't know how many years, detached garages, attached garages are included in the calculation of floor area ratio. So it seems to me that at this point, we need to know the exact number or percentage, square footage or percentage of the floor area ratio, because I don't think the board can decide this case without knowing that. That's my recommendation to the board. We need to know what that number is. And until we do, I don't know how you render a decision.
This is the old one.
Well, it's always online, but I looked at it today. I just want a copy.
So can we do, so, we don't proceed until we have that number, what I'm hearing you say.
So, do you wanna let them, we can't even send them in the
Calculate it right
back, there's a meeting going on.
Do we have?
So you want 50% of the attic above the addition only, right?
No.
No.
Entire thing.
The entire
The entirety of the
principal.
house. So, I mean, is this your full attic
Okay.
plan? This is your existing attic? Correct?
It's existing attic here. I still don't know where there's a little wall here,
So
you can't walk
What
through
we
there.
wanna know is, this is your entirety of your house. So how much of it, I can't tell from here, is above 6 foot 6 inches? And is that more than 50% of your second floor? Which it doesn't appear to be, but we would like that, which is why we need to.
That's 6'6", 6'5", right? Or 50%.
No, 6 foot 6, any proportion that is 6 foot 6 inches or more, if the total area that is 6 foot 6 inches or more exceeds 50% of your second floor, then we include it in the FAR. If it's less than 50 cents, then it's not 50%, and we don't include it.
All right, do you want to go into the back?
They can't go into the far
Well,
back,
they
there's a
can, you
meeting
can go
there.
into the back room.
I can do it right here.
Immediately
I can
behind
sit
it.
here for a minute and do it right here.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to call the next case.
Yeah, that's up to you. I think it's good.
All right, the next case is Shen at 332 Blue Pine Way. Pardon me?
Okay,
Okay. I think on the side.
On that side.
To the side.
Okay, whoever's gonna testify, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, please state your full names and your address.
My name is Bing Shen, 332 Lupin Way,
Okay?
Short Hill.
Douglas Oswald, architect, 9 Whitney Road, Whitney.
Spell your last name?
A-S-R-A-L.
Peter Korzen, spelled K-O-R-Z-E-N, engineer, 26 Berkshire Street, Whippany.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Shen, you want to go first? Or are you leaving it to your professionals?
I will leave to them. I'm first time here.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
Proceed.
Mr. Korzen, if you're going to go first, if you'll please give the board the benefit of your credentials.
Sure, I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor, and planner in New Jersey. Have about 30 years experience. I've operated Korzen Engineering for 15 years. All of my licenses are current and active. I've testified in numerous boards, not this one, but Summit, surrounding area, Springfield, Livingston, Union, and throughout northern and central New Jersey.
Your qualifications are accepted as an engineer.
The proposal is to knock down a house and replace it with a new one. The address is 332 Lupine Way. And I'll briefly discuss the existing conditions, which are shown on the boundary and topographic survey. This is sheet 2 in your packet, and it's dated May 3rd, 2019.
Mr. Korzen, we won't have to mark anything unless it's been altered from what's been submitted with the application.
Nothing in my set has been altered.
Thank you.
So you can see the existing house. It's located on a corner lot. There's a bend in Lupine Way. It's just to the west of East Forest Drive, I believe. The house is located in the back of the lot, and there's a side entry garage with a driveway that leads out to Lupine Way. The front yard is lawn. It contains steep slopes, as you can see shaded here. And everything slopes down towards Lupine Way from the front of the house. There's existing underground utilities with the exception of an overhead service for electric, telephone, and cable TV. Moving on to the proposed condition, this is the lot grading plan sheet 1, again dated last revised May 3rd, 2019. This shows the proposed 2-story dwelling, which is roughly in the same location as the existing house. It also contains a side entry garage with a driveway that actually connects with the existing curb cut on Lupine Way. There is a proposed patio in front of the dwelling, and from there it steps down with some low-height landscape walls and some planters in between. There is a substantial drainage system with this project, unlike the existing condition. There are roof drains which collect runoff from the front portion of the roof. There's a trench drain that collects runoff from the patio, and there's a series of lawn inlets and cleanouts which all convey the runoff to 2 dry well tanks located in the front yard. You can see those circles located there. Each one of those tanks is 8 foot in diameter and 4 feet deep and surrounded by a stone envelope. We've designed this system so that it stores adequately the volume that's required per the township. There are proposed underground utilities that will connect with the existing services. Unfortunately, we're unable to provide underground electric, telephone, and cable because the utility pole is across the street. So that would be an overhead line going to the house. As you can see in the upper right of the plan, there's a zoning data table, and that identifies all of the zoning criteria. The first column is the permitted or required value. The middle column is the existing, and the right column is the proposed. So there are 5 variances identified. The first one is not meeting the minimum front yard setback of 40 feet, and also the average front yard setback in the surrounding area of 51.4 feet. We're providing 37.0 feet, and that's to this corner of the house right here. The second variance is for disturbance of steep slopes. So within that shaded area that was shown on the existing plan, it's also shown here. You can see a bold outline where the proposed grading does disturb a certain amount of steep slopes. That happens to be 1,460 square feet, which exceeds the maximum threshold of 1,000 square feet. So that's the second variance. Actually the third, because we have 2 variances for front yard up top. The fourth variance is for the minimum setback for an accessory structure. In this case, that happens to be the patio in front of the house. We don't quite meet that. There is an 80-foot requirement, and we are providing 26.1 feet from Lupine Way right away to the closest point of the patio. The final variance is for maximum impervious surface in the front yard. And since this is a corner lot, there's actually 2 front yards. Because of the bend in the road, it's qualified as a corner lot. So for one of those front yards, which is the one that's to the west, we are exceeding the maximum impervious coverage. And that happens to be 38.43%, where 30% is the required value. So that concludes my presentation. We have our project architect here that will describe the house in general and give you some more information on the variances as well. I'm open for questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Wasn't there an accessory coverage variance?
Yes.
Maximum accessory coverage permitted on the corner lot is 7 feet, and you have,
7%.
7%.
I'm sorry, 7%.
10.1.
I believe you're at 10.1.
We're at 6.93%.
Eileen called that out.
Eileen,
So.
you're still sworn.
Yes.
Is he right that that is not a,
I think that's an older plan. We actually reduced the size of the patio. Should be May 3rd is the last revision date.
Yeah, we're looking at December 21, 2018.
yes?
Yeah, but in here it's, yeah, in the revised, it's 6.93 for proposed.
Oh, no, it's got a, wait, what did you say, May 3rd?
May 3rd,
Yeah,
yeah.
it has a revision date. Mhm.
Let me see the revision.
Right here.
Oh, there it is.
Do you see the revision date, Eileen?
I do, but I don't have the original is downstairs in the denial. So your patio is outlined in this.
Yeah, it's now 644 square feet, which is 6.93%.
Okay, so that sounds like one we don't need. What about the height of the front yard retaining walls?
We've also,
Maximum height is 2 feet.
yeah, we've reduced
You
that with
reduced
this
that.
plan to
Reduced it.
comply with that
Okay,
as
so
well.
we were
Yes.
eliminating that one as well.
Is it your intention to speak to the positive and negative criteria for these variances?
I am a professional planner. If you desire that, I can do that at the end. Our architect is also here.
Right. So let's hear from the architect, then he can come back and do the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Asrel, could you please also give the board the benefit of your credentials?
Yes, I'm a registered architect in New Jersey since 2000. I have appeared before this board about 2 years ago, and a few times before that, and most recently in Berkeley Heights and Madison.
Your education?
And New Jersey Institute of Technology, Bachelor of Architecture, 1991.
Your license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Proceed.
Okay.
Your qualifications as an architect are accepted.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Shen, acquired this property, and the house presently, I believe, is about setback 8 feet from its neighbor. So with this, and because of the corner lot, between all of the setback restrictions, if you look at architectural plan Z1, you get a sense of the limited area with which you could build without a variance for setbacks. So this is the hardship of the site. The house that's currently on the property is not in conformance. But with this project, we propose a house with a floor area ratio that's within the limit of the floor area ratio, and meets at least the setbacks with regard to the neighbors at the side yards. We don't have much control for a house of that's within the FAR to stay within these very severe limits. But we're seeking variance for, at least with the front yard, there's the 40-foot setback, which is the standard setback, but then there's the prevailing average setback, which is further back. To develop any property, develop a design on this property, we're going to, step on some restrictions. So what Mr. Shen had in mind for this house for him was a 4-bedroom with a guest room, so 5-bedroom altogether, 2-story residence with the garage in the basement and family room or recreation room at the basement level. And just to give a sense of the look on the exterior. Going with a sort of postmodern architectural vocabulary, hip roofs, but smooth stucco and cedar plank siding. And with the stone, with the retaining walls, trying to blend in with the contours of the steep slope of the property, to have a natural look for the front yard with the retaining walls, and to carry that to the garage, which is at the basement level at the foundation, and to have a natural-looking foundation and a low-profile structure, which opposes a wooded area across the street that borders the rail line.
Are there any questions of this witness?
Yes.
What did you say? You said a certain vocabulary?
Postmodern. It's.
No, what do you mean by postmodern?
Was somewhat traditional, but kind of updated with the lines of the hip roof, gables, but there's no gables in this case, just hip roofs, and it's somewhat modern, but not totally. It's not like a flat roof.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yes.
So can you speak to how the architectural character of this proposed house is in keeping with the architectural character of the streetscape?
Only with regard to the general shape of it, that's where it's hip roofs and it is a break from the tradition. Yeah, but we think this is a unique site that has a limited. It's not like it's up against so many traditional homes, immediately. There's a wooded area directly across. It's kind of an isolated corner.
It has neighbors.
It does, yes, but it's not like it's we are proposing a break from tradition. We're not, because of the unique character, it's very hard to get we looked at a more traditional look originally, but it's hard to maintain that rigor and discipline of a traditional home on this challenging site. So we wanted a home that looked good unto itself versus trying to force a traditional looking building on this triangular type of shape lot that we have. Yeah, take that down. As you see, it steps back, in such a way because we're limited. We're trying to not encroach as much as possible. And we're making the effort to not encroach. That's why the stepped profile. Yeah. And so a traditional look, which is a bit more more rectangular in layout, would have been even more limiting, or required more of an encroachment.
I have a question.
Yes.
It appears to me that your program was driving your design. Is that true?
Yes, the property drove the design.
The program.
The program.
Not the property, the
square
program.
Oh, the square footage, we want to stay within the square footage, yes.
How many bedrooms you want, how many bathrooms, the square footage of whatever, the program inside the house. Seems to me that's driving the design.
It's certainly a big factor, yes. Yeah.
I really have, some questions as my colleague had about how it fits into the neighborhood, because that neighborhood is kind of iconoclastic. It's off by itself. It's bordered by the Arboretum, and it's fairly traditional. So, with some exceptions. So.
I would say it's not just traditional. Like I kept going back and forth on the street. It has a particular type of houses. And postmodern to me is just such a funny word.
I don't know what else to call it.
But anyway, the houses there are basically appear to be Cape Cod style, where they have a full ground, first floor, and the second floor is composed of large dormers, so that they still appear to be almost like a 1.5-story house when they're not. They're really 2 stories. But the proposal that you have does not have any of that character. To me, it seems like a very large, you say orthogonal, it's very orthogonal, and I don't understand what's going on the roof. There's no real attic. That's just a fake roof. Is that right? Not fake.
That's not right. It's a low pitch roof, right? It's a minimal attic. Yeah.
But it's not nothing.
We have a height restriction to stay within as well.
But is there anything in the attic? Is there really an attic?
We're talking light storage at the most. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, aesthetically from the outside, it doesn't seem in any way to be compared to what I agree is a very distinctive street.
So what's the thought with the patio in the front yard? Why are we doing that?
It's the only outdoor space we can acquire.
So what do you suggest you're going to do in that outdoor space?
It's
A grill out there?
No, not at all. It's just the outdoor space. It's
Well, a lawn would be an outdoor space.
That's true. And we're amenable to that. It's the only, but we want it also somewhat usable in terms of just being able to sit out there perhaps.
Is this an investment property?
We're planning to move in. It's my sister in town and my parents, they're getting old, so I asked my architect to do me an in-law suite so we can put our parents there in the future. But once it's finished, of course.
Do you have a basement drawing? Because I notice you have an elevator.
Yes, I don't have a basement drawn here. It's the garage and a recreation room. The elevator is because of the car is parked in the basement and to facilitate access to the upper 2 floors.
Now, how about conforming to the front yard setback? Why couldn't you do that?
We could conform possibly to the 40-foot, but there's no way we can conform to the 51-foot average.
Does the house conform now?
No.
And how far is the house right now?
Well, the house is about 8 feet from the neighbor, which is
the current house now. What's the setback on
the current house? If I may, 38.5 currently.
too large for the site?
Too large?
Yeah.
It's an undersized lot, and we're meeting the FAR, so I don't see how
It's
it
an
can be too.
oversized
It's an
lot.
It's oversized? I'm sorry, is it?
It's an oversized
Yeah,
lot.
By how much?
quite a bit.
By almost 50, over 50%.
All right.
6,000 square feet is the required for the district. This house is almost 9,300 square feet.
Mhm.
So it's more than 50%.
When I look at the plan, I see like an open to below, I see two very large closets, I see, I see a lot of space on kind of seems very big for the site.
Well, we still try to stay within the FAR, so.
Right.
The FAR is only one.
One of the.
No, it's one of the
measure-
many, yes, right.
One of the measures of overbuilding.
But it's a challenge in that it's on a corner with the 51-foot setback. That was, I mean, that's the shape we have.
Let's make sure
yeah,
that we're
yeah.
all together here.
Yes.
I'm looking at attachment E of the application. And do I understand, Eileen, that the last two variances that are listed on attachment E are no longer in play here?
Right, the,
Right.
wall height and maximum existing coverage.
All right, so we're talking about front yard coverage, where we're talking about a deviation of about 30%. Accessory structure in the front yard, that's the patio, where we're talking about a 53.9. Oh, that's the setback, right?
That's the amount of the variance.
No, that's accessory structure in the front yard.
Well, but
The re-
that's a setback,
That's the variance he's requesting.
but it's a setback.
No, the
Yes.
setback,
Yes.
it is the setback, but he's proposing a
I
setback of
understand.
26.1.
80 feet is required
Right,
on a corner lot. And Eileen, you noted this as a corner lot, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we have steep slope and the front yard setback variance. All right, let me pursue this with you. Is there any way that you can figure out how to get rid of that first variance? Meaning move the structure back 3 feet?
Yes, we can do that, certainly, yeah. It's that little pie shape is what we're over in the 40. But there's, as far as the 51.4 average setback, which is the one that you really are enforcing, I mean, it
Eileen,
overrides.
Did you pull this out for an average front yard setback? I don't see it on your report.
I just pulled out the 40 foot.
I don't see in your package calculations showing how you arrived at the average front yard setback. Mr. Corson, did you do that?
Yes, I do. There is on sheet 2 of 5, which is the boundary topographic survey on the right-hand side, you'll see the front setback location map.
2 of 5?
Yes.
2 of
You can
5.
see it right on the edge.
And it's my understanding that the average of those numbers ends up being the 51.4 feet.
Well, it's within 500 feet or to the nearest corner, so
And the,
all those properties on Lupine up on there, they can't possibly, are they included?
yes, because these lots are not terribly wide. So,
Okay.
yeah, they will include it.
Eileen, do you agree that we're now talking about, on attachment E, we're talking about the first four listed there?
Correct. The first floor is in the bank.
And the front yard, it's not only for the minimum, but it's also for the average.
Correct.
So are we to consider the average or the minimum?
You can't, both.
Mhm.
I mean,
So the extent of the variance
you
is,
can look at the averages, 40.1, 40.7, 44, 52, 59, 61, 59. They're not horribly consistent. If you use them and come up with an average, come up with 51 point, so the average is not met and the 40 feet is not met. It's in the same,
Are those two separate variances?
no, they're not.
Is it an existing non-conforming condition, the first one?
The
Yes.
original house is non-conforming. Yeah.
Aren't you, but you're not using the foundation from the existing house, are you?
No, we're demolishing,
demo.
complete demo, and moving it away from the neighbor, where it's
Right.
only 8 feet away, moving it to 12.
Move four directions, only one side has made. Those three sides are wood and trees.
Are there any other questions of this witness, Mary?
Did you attempt to place the new home within all of the zoning requirements?
Well, I mean, of course, it always starts that way, but as you can see from the 51.4, it's just that you can't get a house of any appreciable footprint, to work on it. It at its largest, it would be something like about 28 feet on one end, and then it narrows down to around 4 feet on the other. So, maybe you can. A quote-unquote legal house on here would probably be about 16 by 24 feet in footprint.
My theory is when you're tearing down a house and building new, there should be few requests for variance.
Oh, I understood. Yeah, I mean, but this is a very challenging property with its setback restrictions, certainly.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you can make the argument that you've made all the variances better. They still exist, but they're not as severe as they were.
They're not as severe as they were, certainly.
Any other questions from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions of these witnesses? Close the public portion
Are we
of the
gonna get the
meeting.
positive and negative criteria?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
You can,
Positive
you wanna
and
bring
negative
the
criteria?
planner, you wanna get planning testimony?
Yeah, well, yes. Let's get some planning testimony.
Pete Korzen again. In my opinion, this project qualifies as a C1 hardship variance due to the nature that it's a corner lot. As you heard testimony, we really can't meet the 51.4 front yard setback. That is the first variance. Moving down the line, we have a steep slope variance as well. As you can see by the shaded area, a substantial portion of the front yard is existing steep slopes. We've tried to minimize that with retaining walls instead of grading all the way down to the street. The grades and the soil erosion control plan prevent any possible soil erosion from reaching the street, and we are going to, if approved, apply to the HEP Soil Conservation District for their approval as well. Moving down, we have the front yard location and setback of the patio. That's another variance. Again, you heard testimony that there's very little room in back of the house to provide a patio. The front yard really is the only area that makes sense. And the fact that we're increasing the impervious surface in the front yard, which is the next variance down, we have adequately addressed it with the stormwater management system. As a matter of fact, this dry well system has storage that's 66% in excess capacity of what's required by the township. So in my opinion, with considering all of those things, there is no detriment to the public good, and that would be the first negative criteria. The second for the C1 variance would be that there is no detriment to the zone plan or the zoning regulations, and in my opinion, that's the case for this as well.
So do you have an opinion on the design of the house not conforming with the rest of the neighborhood, and how that impacts the neighborhood?
No, you heard testimony from the architect. I'm really not qualified to speak about the design of the house.
Do you have testimony about why the patio is in the front when you have, like, one of the variances accessory structure in the front yard?
Right,
How is that,
right.
how is that good?
Well, we've tried to position the house itself as far back, matching roughly the location of the existing house, but keeping it as far back from the Lupine Way right-of-way. So because of that, we have very limited space in back of the house for usability, and certainly for a patio. So the front yard makes the most sense. There's a lot of land there, and that's why it was positioned in the front yard there.
But what about no patio? Wouldn't no patio be better than that patio in the front?
Can't say whether it would be better. Normally people want some type of outdoor living space outside of their house. That's really a decision that the owner applicant would have to make.
And if I may, actually that's my idea originally, because this property really it's hard to find any places for the kids to run or to play or whatever. So at the beginning I asked Doug to put a little. It was too big. So and then he mentioned the variance issue, and then we reduced the size. So it's basically, and there's nowhere I can put a balcony or whatever. So it's the only place, you know, we can have a little space for the kids to play, and it's in the front yard patio. That's my original thought.
Any questions for any of the witnesses from the audience or from the board? Are there any statements to be made by anybody in the audience, either for or in favor of or opposed to this application? I see none, I hear none. I'll close the public portion of the meeting. All right, board members, what are you thinking? I know what I'm thinking.
I have a problem with the issues that I addressed in my questions, but also the patio. Our decisions run in perpetuity. So maybe this homeowner will not grill on the patio, but maybe the next one will. And I think that puts all kinds of activity in front of the house that is not seen anywhere else in that whole section of the community. So I find that becomes an issue with me.
But also this patio.
We've closed the public portion of the meeting. Any other board members? Jessica?
I agree with Mary. It's also quite a large patio. I mean, it's 644 square feet. That's not a small number for a patio. So I think it kind of disrupts the whole landscape to have a patio like that in the front of a house.
I'm troubled by the I'll use the word thoughtfulness of the design, but I only mean that in the sense that this house is meant to conform or sort of blend in with the rest of the neighborhood, and how it really doesn't do that. Now, that may have been the intent of the design, but it troubles me. You're gonna have this kind of very unusual looking home sort of out of nowhere.
I also think the scaling and the mass of the home is just too large for the area. I mean, I realize that it may not have an FAR issue, but as Joe mentioned, that is only one indicator when it comes to the scale of a home. And I think that this is going to loom over the street, and I think that it'll become an eyesore in the neighborhood. And I also would not support any front yard patio whatsoever.
Okay, let me point out, as I believe I'm correct, I didn't do it tonight, but I did it at home. I think this is a proposed, is it not, 5-bedroom house?
That's correct.
Is that correct? And yes, this is a difficult lot to play with. I would be opposed to a patio in the front yard for the reasons that have been stated by other board members. I think that the design of this house, and if we were to grant these variances, I would disagree with the planner. I think that this would definitely affect the neighborhood negatively. And when you talk about the public good, we know that the case law says that the public good means the neighborhood, the effect on the neighbors. And I know that we're not called upon here to grant any variances with respect to the design of the house, but I think that when you take these 4 variances into account, especially with the patio in the front yard, and the fact that there is still a 4-foot, 3-foot, I guess, variance requested for the setback. When you're dealing with a variance of that size and a house of this size, there's no question that that variance does not have to be granted. This house can be moved back 3 feet, no question about that. So based on the variants that are requested here, I would vote no. Any other comments from board members? Is there a motion?
Before you do that,
Because the
do you want the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and see what you can do? And the reason I say that to you is because if you ask the board to proceed to a vote on this application, my sense is that you may not get the majority of the board. Sounds like the patio has a lot of no votes. If the board denies this application, that would mean you'd have to substantially revise this application in order to come back. You can't come back with anything that's substantially similar to this because the board would be stuck with the doctrine of res judicata, meaning the matter's already been decided. There would have to be substantial changes. So you may want to talk to your client and see if he wants the opportunity to sit down with his professionals, see about shrinking the house, maybe shrinking it in the depth. Doesn't sound like that patio is very popular. And then you could come back another time. We would leave the hearing open so you would not have to renotice. I don't know when you'd get on the next agenda. Eileen would have to tell us that.
August 5th would be the very soonest I could do.
August 5th would be the first date you could come back. But it would at least keep the application alive with no further notice being required.
How many cases do we have on August 5th already?
4.
4? Including one that's coming back for a second time?
So that's really
August 4, we could hear the case.
August 5th.
Pardon me?
August 5th.
August 5th. So that's really a decision for you to make. If you want the board to go to a vote, they're happy to do that. I just want you to be aware of the consequences of that.
You want an adjournment?
Yes, we would like to adjourn until the August 5th meeting.
Okay, so we're gonna carry this with the case open till August 5th. No further notice.
No further notice.
Now, let me make a clarification on that. You will not have to renotice this application as long as your variances do not exceed the number or size of variance that you've requested now. If you put a new variance into the mix by a redesign, then you will have to renotice.
Or if any of these variances,
I don't think they noticed it according to the size. I think they just did
Okay,
the section
just by
numbers. But if
section
you replace one of these with some variance that is not covered by your notice, then you will have to renotice.
Understood.
Thank you.
all right, let me just make a formal announcement. This case is adjourned without further notice or publication based on what our attorney has just advised, till the night of August the 5th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in this room at the municipal building.
Thank you.
Eileen, can they take their plans? Because we didn't mark anything anyway.
All right, we're going to move to,
Are you ready?
you ready? You come back? All right, we're going to come back to case number, case number 1?
Number 2.
Number 2. Right,
There's a southern slope.
right. Okay, where do we stand?
Well, I worked out the numbers, and now by determining what the attic areas are, what the habitable areas are, I concluded that the existing attic and the attic of the addition are less than 50%, approximately about maybe 17%, 17.8%, or 17 or 19%, depending on which numbers I'm using here. So they are less than 50%, which I guess I can deduct that from the FAR area ratios numbers. It's not included. Right, that's how you figured it. So I just assumed it was included regardless, the existing usable area that's being used right now. So that's how I did it 3 years ago, not realizing 50% means that. Anyway.
So what is the FAR?
So now, the FAR now works out to close to her number that she posted, that I have a copy of her numbers here. That it comes to like, I'm adding, well, the,
It's 37.3, so we went back to
I just
basically,
wanted to go down, break down the number, but,
when we removed the attic, because now it's less than 50%
yes,
of the second
I
floor,
added,
adding the garage.
and then added a garage. It comes to like 2,105.46 area, divided by the area of the lot. I'm sorry, it adds, this is the wrong number. It's 23, with the garage included, it's 2336.46 divided by the area of the lot, comes to 37.37%.
37.37.
Yes, and she has like something like 30.
And that's what she has,
She has
37.3.
roughly within the same area, within 1%, 0.5%. So now I still,
Okay. So what's your testimony with respect to the side yard setback, combined side yard?
well, the side yard setback that I was talking about as existing is the ones that are of the existing main house, to combine them out, approximately 16.4 feet, which is 7.2 feet plus the other side, 9.2 at the sunroom side, up by the driveway side there. So you add those two numbers together, it should be 16.4 divided by 50-foot lot width. And that's 30, that'll be like
It's not
30 that's like 32.8% of a percentage. So it's already under that already originally.
I want to hear some testimony about how, if at all, the grant of these combined side yard and side yard setback would affect the next door neighbor.
It should, because my addition actually is a little less, or actually further away from the property lines than the existing houses, so. And my proposed addition is like 8.5 feet from the left side of the house, and then on the driveway side is 18 feet, 18.17 feet from the other side on the driveway side is, so it's more there with the addition versus the sunroom, which is also sticking out, you know. Another 8 feet or something, 8 or 9 feet there.
I'm looking at the drawing that you have
Let's
on,
get the site plan.
this is, I don't even know what sheet this is.
It should say zoning plot plan, maybe?
Pardon me?
The zoning plot plan?
I don't know what they,
They wrote right there in the bottom corner, right, where it says sheet.
yes, zoning plot plan. I'm seeing that you're extending the existing 7.2 side yard setback. You're extending it before the property comes in or away from the sideline. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going in about a foot and a half or so from the original setback, so.
I want to hear some
The
testimony.
existing setback of 7.2 feet is now
Right.
gonna extend to the new second story, correct?
Yes, it will. It's a
And
that little
then,
part there.
right, and then beyond that existing 7.2 area, that's when the
That's when the
building
main
is gonna
addition-
jog in a
Right.
little bit.
Right,
But you are going to require a variance for 7.2 feet because you're extending the pre-existing
Yes,
non-conforming
yes.
setback
Yes.
to the second story. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I guess so, yes.
Thank you.
How is that going to affect the next door neighbor, if at all?
Very minimum, because it's only like a 3 foot or 3 or 4 foot wide addition on the top of the existing bottom room
How
down there.
far
below
is the
that.
neighbor's house from the property
Oh,
line?
I don't know.
We
I
have the
couldn't tell you.
photos, right, we have photos in the packet.
I couldn't tell you. I have no survey of that area.
Do you know, is there a driveway on that side?
There was no.
So,
Look at the
Good.
package,
Yeah,
there's the driveways on that
Step up
side.
to the microphone.
Then it would have to be at least 9
so I think we're talking about the right side of
Yes,
the
the right
property.
side of
Yeah,
the house
when
is
you
the
There's a
neighbor's
driveway.
Face the house,
Yeah.
it's the right side of
When
the
you
house.
face the house.
Yes, that's right.
So there's no
Driveways on both
There's
sides.
no driveway, that yellow house next to
Yeah,
it?
one is, our driveway is on the left side of the house.
Yes.
And the driveway on the neighbors.
So
is
that
a-
means it would be at least
Right,
like 9 or 10 feet.
So there's a little fringe of
See,
land that is
there's the
ours.
house
No,
next
we
door.
need to mark that.
Yes.
Mark
No,
it.
it's in the package.
Is it in the packet?
Well, these are my pictures, they're not their pictures, these are my own pictures here.
Oh, there it is.
A little different.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to point out something that the number you used for the lot width is not consistent. Like when you did the area, you used, I know the lot is 50 in the front and then it widens
It's a little wider in the back, yes.
So when you used the combined side yard, it would have been a benefit to you to use the number of the average.
Well, he has to use the number at the front of the
Does he
facade,
have
at
to
the
use?
40-foot
Okay.
setback. When he calculates combined side yard setback, he has to use the width at the 40-foot setback line.
Right.
So it's not 50, but
So
it'd
it's
be
not
just a drop
50.
of
Well,
50 then. But
very-
it wouldn't be,
you can't,
yeah.
it's very hard to measure.
So
Without being a survey, I couldn't really
Yeah, you
give you a real
okay.
number. I'm just going by what I
Yeah,
have,
no,
you know what
okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
We didn't get involved with engineers yet in this yet. It's a very minor thing. There's only slight
Well, it
difference
might be
between-
minor now, but if
It's a
something
slight-
goes up and you don't meet,
There's a slight difference in the distance on the front of the house versus the back corner of the house, and on that side there's a slight difference.
I was
According to
saying
their survey here.
Because you use the number to get the total area of the
Yeah.
site, which affects the FAR.
Yeah, oh, I took that by, making a triangle on one side and dividing that by 2. Does it diff-
Eileen, but you're comfortable with the requested combined side yard setback?
That's correct.
Because at the end of the day, before they get a CO, somebody's gonna go out there and check.
I'm satisfied.
Thank you.
Help me understand, what happens to the chimney?
It still stays there. The patio gets removed, a basement is made there, and the existing back wing there is like part of the kitchen right now, it's like a little, and that kind of stays there, except it's taken down, but then rebuilt on it, over it. But a basement, there's just a basement directly underneath that little thing there too.
So
You can
it
see a
gets
basement
moved to
window
the
there.
end of the addition.
Yeah, it's gonna be part of the addition. It's gonna be part of the kitchen.
The chimney's not moving, the chimney
Yeah.
stays where it
I'm
is.
building around the chimney, it'll be like a mudroom and
Okay.
a bathroom there.
Okay.
See, the bathroom right now is in that little thing there right now, right in the kitchen there. It's like a
Right.
little tiny little thing there,
Right.
which is kind of like very awkward to have that there. That could have been like a breakfast nook, or that little space could have been a breakfast nook at one time before somebody must have put a bathroom in there years ago, I don't know how it got there.
Ms.
Very
Ragland,
unusual.
the house is built in 1928, correct?
Correct.
So there's aspects of the home that are really not conducive to modern living, that's what you're trying to accomplish?
There's no heat in the kitchen. The only
No heat in the kitchen?
No, there's only the stove is the only heat in the small kitchen. So with the addition, we will also be adding some heat. The addition, it will be complementary to the structure of the house, the way it is now. It actually looks like it's missing a big part of that.
Thank you.
Just referring to this photo. Right, this is looking at the rear of the house.
Yes.
Approximately, if you estimate, when the addition comes out, how much of this overlap is it gonna be with this house? So it's gonna come all the way out to the end of the White House.
It would be, I think the maximized probably is the expansion we could have done, so it should be just around the same.
The same
length-
distance as your
distance
neighbors.
away from-
Okay. Okay, thank you. So then it's definitely gonna have an impact on that neighbor, just in terms of the view, right? Sunlight into their home, things like that.
They're fine, they actually wanted to.
Their side, actually.
Come to the microphone,
I'm
please.
sorry. The sun actually comes up on the neighbor's side, and when we moved in the house, they invited us over and showed us what we could do to the house. So that was one thing when we bought the house, and we felt like it was very small with our 3 boys, but we felt like this was a big possibility
Okay.
based on what our neighbors were showing us.
And how long have you been in the house?
We bought 2011,
Okay.
and we
3
made
boys?
these plans, yeah. We made these plans in 2014. So now finally we've saved and we've applied, and hopefully we'll be able to improve.
The south is due south, the south is facing the rear of the house, you know.
Right.
North is on the north in the front of the house. So, they get full sunlight in the back all the time, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the board? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? with respect to this application? I see none, I hear none. Close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, what do you think?
I think it's a modest and very contextual addition. It would be appropriate for the context.
Yeah, we see this all the time. You need to bring the house up to a standard that most people enjoy today, so.
And it's welcoming to see it instead of some of the other additions that are happening.
I can only indicate that my inspection of the house and the impact, if any, on the next door neighbor to the right would be minimal. And I think all three of the variances being requested are modest. The most important of which, to me at least, is the side yard setback, where we're talking about roughly 8 to 9 inches. And frankly, that 8 to 9 inches is not going to make any difference to the next door neighbor. The FAR is also relatively modest. I don't think it's going to have an impact on the immediate neighbors or on the neighborhood. Anyone else?
I have a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Craig Whitner.
Yes.
Judy Sharma.
Yes.
Leah Seaman.
Yes.
Steve Milburn.
Yes.
Jessica Zant.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck with the
All right,
project.
thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, we now are going to 720 Morris Turnpike, C2 Education. Okay,
Good evening, Lisa Lamello from the law firm of Jabberbaum Wargaffs, Hicks Kahn, Wickstrom and Simmons, on behalf of the applicant C2 Education, seeking minor site plan approval and a use variance for use in the B2 zone, as well as a variance for parking. There's an existing nonconformance on the lot for lot coverage. 65% is required in the zone. As professional testimony we'll get into, there's currently a 94% coverage and a waiver of the environmental impact statement. C2 Education is seeking to occupy a vacant space in the existing multi-tenanted strip, which is located at 720 Morris Avenue. Was previously occupied by the Verizon. C2 Education provides tutoring services, mostly to the middle school to high school age students for both test preparation and for individual studies in classes such as physics, chemistry, and the like. The model is that there are 2-hour slots for tutoring, and the parents would drop the students off, and these services are by appointment. Although there is a use variance being requested, and certainly not binding here tonight, on the 20th of June, there was a first reading of a change of the ordinance, which would actually permit the use in the zone. And I have a copy of the ordinance, proposed ordinance, if anybody from the board would like a copy. But the proposed use would include instructional schools and studios, including those in academics. That definition is at section 301.27.2. What that proposed ordinance does do is highlight that the use would be in conformance with the master plan in the area. Certainly the professionals will get into that testimony. Richard Keller is here tonight for both site plan and planning purposes. And Rick Smith of C2 Education will provide operational testimony. Okay, we can swear both witnesses in at the same time. Ms. Lamilla, did you receive the professional reports? I did, yes. Okay. Yes.
Gentlemen, if you raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your names and addresses for the record.
Rick Smith, my work address is 6465 East Johns Crossing, Duluth, Georgia.
Richard Keller from Casey and Keller. And my business address is 258 Main Street in Millburn, New Jersey.
We'll start with Mr. Keller.
Can we get the operational testimony in first?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. I'm Rick Smith with C2 Education. C2 Education is based in Atlanta, Georgia. We were started by two gentlemen in their dorm room in Harvard. We have 180 centers in 14 states. We have 22 locations in the state of New Jersey. As was previously stated, we do SAT, ACT, subject matter, test prep. Our nearest centers are in Livingston, Chatham, and Westfield. Part of what's drawn us to this area is we tend to go where the best schools are, and we currently have students that are coming from the Millburn High School that are coming over to our center. We can plot where people come from. So that's part of the attraction. The location we're looking at is about 3/4 of a mile from the Millburn High School and the Millburn Middle School. Most of our students are between 12 and 17 to 18 years of age. 18 is sort of the back end, because by then they've gone to college. They're sort of decided where they're going to college. We operate at a 3-to-1 student-teacher ratio, but nationally our average is about 1 to 2.2 children. A lot of that varies because it depends on usage. A lot of our students typically come to our centers twice a week. The sessions, as was mentioned, last for just under 2 hours or an hour and 50 minutes. Our centers are open from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and from 9 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday. We're typically closed on Friday, and we're closed on Sundays. Hard to get people to want to study on Friday afternoons. Our peak times generally are after school, so I understand the schools here get out around 2:30ish, so 3 to 3:30. We kind of can adjust the sessions to work for students. The parents do not stay in our center during the time that the students are working with the individual tutor, so students are dropped off and then can be picked up after their session. About once a month, the parent will come in with their student, depending on frequency, and have a diagnostic conference with one of the center directors. Our center will have one full-time center director and one assistant center director, and they're typically there in the earlier times preparing for later in the day. Our tutors are all part-time employees. In this center, we have the physical capacity to have 8 tutors in the center. Our average depends on how long we've been in an area and how successful we are. Most of our centers typically have 5 or 6 tutors working at any one time, but we do have the capacity to have 8. Trying to think what else I may have left off that you might want to. We sell our services in packages, so.
The tutors are themselves students?
No, the student, they're typically graduate students. They're not high school students, or they're typically students that have graduated from college and are going to get a master's degree or a PhD or something like that. Sometimes we have retired or teachers that have left teaching and do this as a side job. All of our teachers have to be credentialed, so they have to pass an internal program that we've put together to validate their teaching abilities, and they have to take a version of the SAT or ACT and score in the 90th percentile.
And C2 Education, is that a franchise model?
No, we have 165 corporate locations and 25 franchise locations. Franchise are typical. We've got some in Florida and a few sort of odds and ends here and there, but all the centers are corporate in
So
this
this
area.
would be a corporate?
Corporately operated center, correct.
And what's your position in the company?
Vice President of Real Estate.
And Mr. Miller?
Wait, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, is it?
Yes.
I'm looking at the statement of principal points. I'll read a sentence. The center also has a testing room as C2 works with students by giving them diagnostic tests and frequent practice tests. At maximum capacity, the center would have 45 occupants. Is that true?
If we occupy most of the seats, yes, sir.
How many square feet is this?
2,000 square feet.
It's a small space, 45 people.
Our average, well, and that's as many seats as a planner and architect can set on there. So typically what happens is that the center will have a student come in, they'll talk to the center director, they'll work out a program, they'll take a diagnostic test. So we have a room that has 10 seats in it. We can use that when, sometimes we'll, especially when we just open in a market, we'll have testing events or things where people can come in and take an SAT. So we have that room that has that capacity. But you know, most of the time when you walk in our centers, you'll find that there's between 1 and 2 to 3 kids in that room.
Mr. Smith, you have 22 centers in New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
How often are those centers at the full capacity?
It really varies from location to location. You know, we'd hopefully be as successful as possible in any given location, but typically about half full to 3/4 full. Saturdays it can be sometimes busy days, and then sometimes peak times as you get near the SAT, ACT deadlines. You know, we tend to find that people sort of get more energized. We sell our services in packages based on the diagnostic test and working with the parents and the student on what their goals are. And so our student sort of lifespan typically ranges from 6 months to 2 years.
And Mr. Smith, based on the centers that you're aware of in this market, parents typically would do a drop-off service, correct?
Correct.
Or drop-off to your services. Therefore, the average parking capacity would be for the employees, correct?
We actually design our centers, and our model operates in a sense where the parents' interaction is with the center director or the assistant center director, and they provide progress reports to the parents. That's really their key contact. What we found is, and this is sort of our business model, but also what we found is the tutors tend to like to teach, but don't like necessarily as much of the interaction sometimes with parents, some of that reporting. And so our centers are actually designed where the parents tend to stay in the front with the center director.
And in terms of the age group, middle school to high school, have you found that it's an age group where the parents are comfortable dropping the kids off and leaving there, especially with the 2-hour time slot?
Yes.
Mr. Smith, what were the Saturday hours again?
9 to 5.
Thank you.
And Mr. Smith, you were mentioned that you were drawn to the location by the schools, correct?
Correct. And we operate in retail shopping centers, so all of our, maybe there are a couple in an office building somewhere, but the majority of our centers are in retail shopping centers with drugstores or grocery stores or other uses. We find that that works well for both the parents. It attracts people to our location. We're not hidden. And so that's very typical for us across the country as well as in the state of New Jersey.
The Friday schedule, you say you closed on Fridays. Will that be the same during peak demand?
We generally don't find people want to work on Fridays or study on Fridays.
Even close to exam time?
There are certain times, and there are certain areas where, you know, student demand will drive that we would be open on Friday, but it's a pretty limited, out of all of our centers. I'd have to look at the numbers to tell you exactly how many, but it's pretty atypical.
Any other questions from board members of this witness?
During the week, you said it's open from 3 to 9?
Our hours are actually 1 to 9. The center director comes in, and a lot of times is scheduling conferences or scheduling with parents. Assistant center director will be there, but usually, and sometimes parents will come and do conferences if they have multiple children while their kids are in school. It's more convenient. But then our sessions generally start after school gets out. In the summer, we can do different things where we can start a little bit earlier, but we'll close earlier.
And you also mentioned college counseling. What kind of counseling is offered?
So our center directors go through a program of training and certification in assisting students with looking at schools, colleges, where their scores are, where their academics are, what the school requirements are. There's a lot of help done with writing of essays and other things as well for college admissions.
I have a question.
Mary?
Do you have any retail sales in your facility?
No.
No snacks, no drinks?
We usually have a basket of things from Costco with snacks and candy and things like that that we give to the students. The center directors usually stock that.
Okay, no t-shirts.
No. And any materials that we have, books and other things, are all part of the package.
Understood on that.
How many parking spots do you need in that lot?
That's probably a question for Rich Keller.
Any other questions from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Smith? Questions only.
Your nearest locations, you said, in New Jersey? Chatham?
Livingston, Chatham, and Westfield. Typically, we find that people don't want to drive more than about 15 minutes.
Right.
Next witness.
Mr. Keller, we need the benefit of your credentials.
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed as an engineer and planner for a little over 28 years. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Rutgers University with a concentration in water resources and environmental engineering. I also hold a master's degree in architecture from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a declared concentration in urban planning and design. It's also an institution that I taught at for approximately 11 years in the graduate and undergraduate division. I have appeared before this board and approximately 109 to 110 other boards throughout the state of New Jersey as both engineer and planner. My licenses are in good effect. All my education is completed, and I have appeared this board for this board as recently as a month ago.
Your testimony today is as a planner?
Planner and engineer, if it comes up, primarily planner, correct.
Your qualifications are accepted by this board.
Thank you. The existing site, as you know, is just under 5 acres. It's